The moment my mom slid the envelope across the kitchen table and said, "We need you to take care of this," I already knew what was inside. I didn't pick it up right away. I just sat there with my coffee going cold, looking at her hands, the same hands that used to braid my hair before school. And I thought, here we go again. My brother's name was on the outside of that envelope, written in my mom's neat cursive, like she'd addressed it to him first, then decided I was the one who should open it. I'm 31 years old. I've been paying my own rent since I was 22. I put myself through the last 2 years of college working doubles at a restaurant on weekends, came home smelling like fryer oil and fake smiles, and not once did my parents offer to help. That was fine. I didn't ask. I figured out how to stand on my own 2 feet, and I was proud of that. My brother, on the other hand, has never really stood on anything. My parents named him Wade, and Wade has spent the better part of his 27 years treating our parents like a bank with no fees and no withdrawal limits. And the worst part, they let him. They've always let him. He wrecked their car at 19 true. They bought him another one. He dropped out of community college twice. They paid both semesters. He moved into an apartment across town 3 years ago, and somehow, my parents started covering half his rent almost immediately. They told me it was just temporary until he got settled. That was 3 years ago. I didn't say much about any of it. It wasn't my money. It wasn't my business. I had my own life, my own apartment in a decent part of the city, a 401k I was actually contributing to, a job in healthcare administration that I'd worked hard to get. I kept my distance, showed up for holidays, smiled through dinners. I had a system. The system broke down on a Tuesday in March. My coworker, she and I had been friendly for almost 2 years at that point. The kind of work friendship where you grab lunch together and vent about your commute, mentioned something offhand. She said her boyfriend, who worked in the same warehouse as Wade, told her that a bunch of people got let go last week. Budget cuts. She didn't even know Wade was my brother when she mentioned it. She was just making conversation. I nodded and said something vague and went back to my desk, and I sat very still for a few minutes. Wade had been fired, and my parents hadn't called me. That meant one of two things. Either they didn't know yet, or they were figuring out how to frame it before they told me. I had a sick feeling it was the second one. I want to be clear about something. I didn't go home that Sunday because I was hoping for a pleasant lunch. I went because my mom had texted 3 times that week asking me to come, and the third text said, "Please, it's important." And I am still, after all these years, not completely immune to the word please from my mother. My dad was quiet when I walked in. That was the first sign. My dad is never quiet. He fills rooms with his voice the same way some people fill rooms with cologne, automatically, without thinking about it. So when I walked in, and he just nodded at me from the armchair, I felt something shift in my stomach. Wade wasn't there. Of course he wasn't. My mom made pot roast. She always makes something good when she's about to ask for something bad. I've noticed this my whole life, and I've never figured out if it's calculated or just instinct. Either way, I ate, and we talked about nothing. The neighbors, some show they've been watching, the weather. And then my dad set down his fork and looked at me the way he looks when he's made a decision that he's already decided isn't up for debate. "Wade lost his job," he said. "I know," I said. That surprised them both. My mom's expression flickered. My dad straightened up slightly. "How do you know?" "Someone mentioned it. It doesn't matter." I kept my voice even. "What did you want to talk about?" My mom reached over and touched my hand. "Sweetheart, he's really struggling. He's got rent due the first of the month and he doesn't have anything saved, and with the situation being what it is..." "What situation?" "He's been trying, you know he has, and this layoff came out of nowhere, and your father and we're on a fixed income now." "Mom, what are you asking me?" She looked at my dad. My dad looked at me. "We need you to cover his rent for a few months," he said. "Just until he gets back on his feet. It's $1,400 a month." I put my fork down. $1,400 a month. For a few months. which with my family means indefinitely, because with my family, temporary has never once meant what the word actually means. I can't do that, I said. Can't or won't. My dad's voice had that edge to it, the one that used to make me backpedal when I was a teenager. I'm not a teenager anymore. Both, I said. And honestly, Dad, it shouldn't be my responsibility in the first place. You two have Social Security and Dad's pension. You're not broke. It's not that simple, my mom said, and she had that soft, wounded look that I have spent years learning not to fold under. He's your brother. Family helps family. Family helps family, I repeated. Okay. So why didn't family help me when I was working weekends in college just to pay tuition? Why didn't family help me when my car broke down and I had to take 3 buses to work for 6 weeks because I couldn't afford the repair? Silence. I'm not trying to rehash old stuff, I said, even though I absolutely was, because some things deserve to be rehashed. I'm just pointing out that the family helps family rule seems to have a very specific direction in this house. My dad's jaw tightened. That's not fair. Okay. Wade is in a difficult situation. Wade has been in a difficult situation for 10 years, Dad. At some point that stops being bad luck and starts being a pattern. My mom's eyes were wet. I hate when her eyes get wet. It is the single most effective weapon she has ever deployed against me, and she knows it. I know you're frustrated, she said quietly. I know it hasn't always been equal, but right now, right this moment, your brother needs help, and you're the only one who can. I can't cover his rent, I said again. I'm sorry, I genuinely am, but I can't. I drove home that night with my hands tight on the steering wheel and my mind doing that thing where it won't stop running the same loop. $1,400, a few months. Family helps family. I knew this wasn't over. With my family, it is never over after one conversation. I was right. The next Sunday, my mom called instead of texting. That's always worse. She said Wade had talked to his landlord and gotten a 2-week extension, but after that he was going to be evicted, and she really needed me to reconsider. And wasn't I being a little selfish, and she didn't raise me to turn my back on people who needed me? I said I'd think about it. I didn't think about it. I had already been thinking about something else entirely. About 6 months earlier, I had made a decision that I hadn't told anyone in my family about. I'd been at my apartment for 4 years. The market in my area had done something nobody expected. And my unit, a 1-bedroom I'd bought when I was 26, stretching every dollar I had for the down payment, had gone up in value by almost $60,000. I had a friend who worked in real estate, and she'd been watching the market with me for a year, and last fall she told me the timing was right, so I listed it. It sold in 8 days. I cleared enough profit to pay off my student loans entirely and put a significant down payment on the condo in a different part of the city, one with a 2nd bedroom I intended to use as a home office. I had already signed the papers on the new place. I was scheduled to move in 6 weeks. I hadn't told my parents because I had learned, slowly and at some personal cost, that information given to my parents too early becomes leverage. They would have had opinions. They would have had concerns. They would have suggested I use the profit for something other than what I planned. And if they'd known I had that kind of money sitting around, even temporarily, the conversation about Wade's rent would have gone very differently. So I stayed quiet. I signed my documents and arranged my move and kept showing up to family dinners and saying nothing. My dad called the following Wednesday. This was new. My dad almost never calls. The fact that he called meant my mom had deployed him, which meant they were serious. I don't want to pressure you, he started, which is always how pressure begins. Then don't, I said. Your mother is worried sick about Wade. I know. He's our son. We can't just watch him get evicted. I understand that. But covering his rent isn't something I can do? There was a pause. Then, you own your place outright. You don't even have a mortgage payment right now. I stopped. What? Your cousin mentioned at Christmas you told her you paid off your mortgage. I thought back to Christmas. I had said something like that loosely in a side conversation with my cousin that I had not intended to reach my parents. My cousin, for what it's worth, didn't do it maliciously. She's just a talker. She didn't know it would circle back. That's not exactly what I said, I told my dad. But you have the money, he said. If you own the place free and clear, you have equity. You could pull from that if you wanted to. A HELOC, or just refinance, and, Dad. I took a breath. I need to tell you something. I hadn't planned to do it on the phone. I'd imagined, in a vague way, that there would be some moment, maybe another Sunday lunch, where this would come out naturally. But I was standing in my kitchen at 7 p.m. on a Wednesday, listening to my father explain to me how I could liquidate my own home equity to pay for my brother's rent. And I was done waiting for a natural moment. I don't own my apartment anymore, I said. I sold it. Silence. I sold it 5 months ago. I've already bought somewhere new and I'm moving in a few weeks. So there's no HELOC, there's no equity to pull from. The apartment is someone else's now. More silence. Then, in a voice I hadn't heard from my dad since I was maybe 16, "Why didn't you tell us?" "Because it wasn't information I needed to share until I was ready to share it," I said. "It's my home. It's my financial decision. I'm 31 years old. Your mother is going to be upset." "I know. You should have told us." "Dad, I have to go." And I hung up. The next 4 days were the quietest 4 days I'd had in months. My mom didn't call. My dad didn't call. I moved some boxes. I went to work. I made my own dinner and watched whatever I wanted on TV and woke up without a knot in my stomach for the first time in a while. On Sunday, my mom texted, "Can you come to lunch? We need to talk as a family." I thought about it for a long time. Then I texted back, "I'll come, but I need to be home by 2. Setting an exit time is something I should have been doing for years. I don't know why it took me this long. When I got there, Wade was actually present for once. He was sitting at the kitchen table looking like he hadn't slept well, which I had some sympathy for, because I genuinely don't think Wade is a bad person. I think he's someone who was never taught that consequences are real, and now he's 30 years old and learning it the hard way, and that's a painful place to be. I felt sorry for him, actually. That surprised me a little. My mom had made her good coffee cake. The one with the cinnamon streusel. That's more serious than pot roast. That's a "I really need something from you" level of baked good. We sat down. My dad cleared his throat. "We've been talking," he said, "and we think that given the circumstances, given that you've come into a significant amount of money from the sale, it's only fair that you help your brother through this period." "I didn't come into a significant amount of money," I said. "I sold one home and bought another. The profit I made went toward the new place and paying off debt. I don't have a pile of cash sitting around." "But you paid off your student loans," my mom said. I looked at her. I looked at my dad. I looked at Wade, who was staring at the table. "Yes," I said slowly. "I did. Because that's what you do when you sell an asset. You use the proceeds for your own financial obligations." "Wade has financial obligations too," my dad said. "Wade's financial obligations are not my responsibility." "He's your brother." "I know who he is, Dad." My mom reached across the table and put her hand over mine again. "Sweetheart, we're not saying you have to do it forever. Just 3 months. Just to give him time to find something new. 3 months and then he'll be back on his feet, and 3 months is $4,200, I said. Minimum. And we all know it wouldn't stop at 3 months. Wade finally looked up. He opened his mouth and I honestly wasn't sure what was going to come out. An argument, or an apology, or something in between. What came out was, "I didn't ask them to do this." I looked at him for a moment. "I know you didn't," I said, and I believed him. That's the thing about my family. My parents' instinct is always to find the nearest capable person and redirect responsibility toward them, and that person has always been me. Wade didn't create that system any more than I chose to be the one it was aimed at. "Then what are you going to do?" I asked him directly. For maybe the first time ever, I was talking to my brother like he was a grown adult who could answer a direct question. He rubbed his face. I've got some interviews lined up. I'm looking at picking up gig work in the meantime, delivery, whatever. Okay, I said. That sounds like a plan. My dad made a noise that indicated he did not think delivery gig work was a sufficient plan. Here's what I can do, I said, and I watched both my parents' expressions shift toward hope, which I almost felt bad about. I can sit with Wade and help him put together a real budget. I can help him look at options. Maybe his landlord would negotiate a payment plan. Maybe there's a local assistance program. Maybe he moves somewhere cheaper in the short term. I will help him problem solve. What I will not do is write a check that removes all urgency for him to solve the problem himself. The table was very quiet. That's it, I said. That's my offer. And I have to leave by 2, so if there's something else we need to talk about, we should probably get to it. My mom looked like she had more to say. My dad looked like he was deciding whether to push. Wade looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Something between resentment and reluctant respect, maybe. Nobody said anything else. I ate my coffee cake. It was really good. I told my mom so because it was true and because I was trying to be a person who could stay firm about a boundary and still be kind in the same breath. I don't know if I succeeded. I'm still figuring that out. I left at 1:58. I sat in my car in their driveway for a second before I pulled out, and I noticed that my chest didn't have that tight, wrung-out feeling it usually has when I leave their house. It felt more like, I don't know, like when you've been holding your breath for a long time and you finally just let it out. The move happened 3 weeks later. I didn't announce it on social media. I didn't do a big thing. I just moved my stuff into a place that had my name on it, that nobody had any claim on, that I had bought with money I had earned, and decisions I had made entirely on my own. My mom texted to ask for my new address, and I gave it to her, because I'm not trying to disappear. I'm just trying to stop being the solution to every problem that isn't mine to solve. Wade got a job about 6 weeks after that lunch. Logistics coordinator at a shipping company, decent pay, benefits. He texted me to tell me, which he didn't have to do. I texted back, that's great, really glad. And I was. I genuinely was. My dad called a few months later. A regular call. No envelope, no strategy behind it. Just checking in. We talked for maybe 15 minutes about nothing important. Before we hung up, he said, "Your mother and I have been thinking. We should have treated you more like we treated Wade when it came to help. We weren't fair about it." I didn't say yes, you weren't, or it's fine, or any of the things I might have said in either direction. I just said, I appreciate you saying that, because I did. It wasn't everything, but it was something, and some things, it turns out, don't need to be more than that.